The Manager of Opposition Business.
At risk of adding to the total, I should note that 18 people in one question time is an all-time record since Federation that we've had.
Isn't that what is? The Leader of the Opposition on a point of order.
Just goes to relevance. I asked the Prime Minister a straight
There's
question.
no excuse for repeating the question. Just do the point of order.
Why won't the Prime Minister ever answer a straight question in the Parliament?
There's no point of order. The Prime Minister has the call.
Well, Madam
to build
Speaker,
the East-West link, do not give it up by voting Labor on Saturday. Vote for the Liberal and National parties.
The Treasurer will resume his seat. The Treasurer will resume his seat. The member for Greenlaw on a point of order.
Speaker, he's misleading Parliament. There's no new money.
Yeah, there's no
it's money that was taken off the Metro.
The member will resume his seat. The member will resume his seat. And he knows that's an abuse of the standing orders. If he does it again, he'll leave. The Treasurer has the call.
A budget, but enough to make you think twice before you call the doc, and the idea is hardly radical. Now, Madam Speaker, it's a very good position, and it's the position of Labor's Shadow Assistant Treasurer. So, Madam Speaker, our position when it comes to the Medicare co-payment is exactly the same
Member for Fraser
as
will
Bob
put
Hawke's
it down
position.
and hand it into the attendant.
It's exactly the same as the Shadow Assistant Treasurer's position, and it is the position that we are doing our best to negotiate with the Senate crossbench now.
I call the Leader of the House.
Madam Speaker, the Shadow Assistant Treasurer is not in his correct seat. He's waving around props. You asked him to put it away. He continued to wave it around in defiance of what you'd indicated to him. The opposition is an absolute rabble today, a cacophony of noise, and I would ask you to give a general warning and that the member for the Shadow Assistant Treasurer be dealt with.
The Leader of the House, I'm aware of the position of front benchers moving on the front bench. And in fairness to the member, I did ask him to hand it to the attendant, and the attendant walked past him and he did attempt to hand it to him. And to be perfectly honest, I could not see the prop in the first instance because it was being blocked by the splendid head of the Leader of the Opposition. I give the call to the member for Melbourne.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Yesterday and today, Prime Minister, you said in question time that East-West Link will give inner-city residents their parks back. Can you please advise the House which parks?
Well, I'm glad the question is being asked. The Prime Minister indicates it's asked to him because I could not hear because of the noise. Now, literally, if there is not silence, then more people will leave this chamber. If they want to catch an early plane, so be it, and don't want to represent their constituencies, it has got to stop that wall of noise. Now, the Prime Minister has the call.
And criminal behaviour.
The Leader of the Opposition will not get the call until there is silence, and if that wall of noise starts again, it will be randomly asked for members to leave. Randomly. Because there'll be a general warning in place. Because a general warning is in place, and you are all warned. Now, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has the call, but unless there is silence, many more of you will be having that early mark you clearly want.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister.
The member will resume his seat.
Sorry.
The Leader of the House.
Madam Speaker, is it in order, while you are admonishing the opposition, for the members for Grayndler and Hunter to actually be interjecting on you as the Speaker?
The answer is no, and there shall be no more of it. But all three of you perhaps should consider your positions.
The former government, which gave us debt and deficit stretching out as far as the eye can see.
The Prime Minister will resume his seat. The Manager of Opposition Business on a point of order.
Surely on a question about our Defence Force, the Prime Minister can be relevant.
The member will resume his seat. The question was a very wide-ranging one and was asked for action which is anticipated by the Leader of the Opposition is appropriate. The Prime Minister is perfectly entitled to answer it. The Prime Minister has the call.
Madam Speaker.
Then the member for Hunter was also interjection. He can leave under 94A. The Prime Minister will resume his seat. The member will resume his seat and leave under 94A. The Prime Minister has the call. Is the Leader, Manager of Opposition Business, anxious to join the member for Hunter?
No, I'm not. But if I've got the call, I'll take a point of order.
Indeed.
How is the member for Hunter meant to resume his seat and leave the room?
He can do it sequentially. It's quite clever. Prime Minister has the call.
Madam Speaker.
The Minister will resume his seat. Member for Grangler on a point of order.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. We want to take Infrastructure Australia's advice.
The member will resume his seat and leave under 94A. The Assistant Minister has the question.
Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition used to support the East-West project, not just once, but twice, in 2 submissions, when he was the Leader of the AWU, the Australian Workers'.
It's clear that the Prime Minister lacks the leadership to sack the Minister for Defence today. Prime Minister, will Senator Johnston still be the Defence Minister when Parliament resumes next year?
I call the Honourable Leader of the House.
We are very tolerant of the Leader of the Opposition's questions, but the first part of that question was an assertion. The second part of it was entirely hypothetical, and it couldn't possibly be in order.
The question is the Manager of Opposition Business on the point of order.
Madam Speaker, if the Prime Minister's view is the same as the Leader of the House's,
no
we're happy to leave it at that.
Resume your seat. You can have a rephrasing of the question, although I'm tempted simply to rule it out of order because it is not within conformity with the standing orders.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Prime Minister, will Senator Johnston still be the Defence Minister when Parliament resumes next year?
Look, that wasn't really a very successful rephrasing of the question. We'll move on to the member for Reid.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member for Reid has the call.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to... I'll yield. I might yield.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
The member for Shortland will desist. She is not in her place. I think the interjections across the chamber will cease. The Prime Minister on a point of order.
Well, Madam Speaker, I would crave your indulgence to actually answer the question that the Leader of the Opposition put.
I think the better way to solve this is we'll move to the question from Reid, and then the Leader of the Opposition may re-ask his question. Okay. The member for Reid. I have ruled that the member for Reid has the call. The Manager of Opposition Business will resume his seat. I can't see who's yelling before your back. Was that the member for Melbourne Ports? Well, in that case, you may leave under 94A. The Manager of Opposition Business.
I'm just wanting to inquire, for the ruling you just gave, is that a suggestion that that would be in place of our ordinary question after the member for Reid's question, or as an additional one?
No, it's not an additional. The member for Reid has the call. I will return to the Leader of the Opposition following the question by the member for Reid. I call the Honourable the member for McMahon.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Today, senior Australian Financial Review journalist Laura Tingle described the Prime Minister's budget strategy as dead, a seriously ex-parrot. Does the Prime Minister agree that his budget strategy and unfair GP tax are dead? Or, Prime Minister, is it just a flesh wound?
I call the Honourable the Prime Minister.
We talk to her every day.
Madam Speaker, if I could...
The member for Shortland will leave under 94A.
Madam Speaker, if I could take the opportunity of this moment at the dispatch box to say that I have full confidence in the Minister for Defence. Can I say this of the Minister for Defence? He wants to be the Minister, and he is doing a fine job as the Minister. And if you look at the outcomes under members opposite, Labor had 3 Defence Ministers in 6 years. Their first Defence Minister was sacked, their second Defence Minister resigned, and their third Defence Minister wanted another job. I mean, that's what Labor Defence Ministers were like. And, Madam Speaker—
The Prime Minister will resume his seat. I call the honourable member for McMahon.
Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister had 3 questions in which he could have expressed confidence in the minister, but he's not being relevant in this one.
Member will resume his seat. If you wanted to call a point of order, there's a proper way to do it, and you know very well there is. One more breach of the standing order protocols and you'll leave too. The Prime Minister has the point of order.
Madam Speaker, will the Minister assist the House by tabling the agreement to which he is referring?
The member for Wills will leave under 94A. That's an abuse of standing orders. The Minister has the call.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And of course, the coalition is following the practice of the Labor Party and tabling the text once it's fully completed and been lawyered. This agreement with the Western District, it will remove tariffs of up to 30% on wine. Fruit and vegetable with tariffs up to 30% will go. Wool secures a new duty-free quota of 30,000 tonnes to grow by 5% every year. And of course dairy is the really big winner. Tariffs of up to 20% will go.
The Minister will resume his seat. The member for Fremantle on a point of order.
Madam Speaker, government members have been asking and answering questions all week about the China Free Trade Agreement.
You just speak to the standing order.
The standing order 100D1. Questions must not contain statements of fact unless they can be authenticated.
Oh, the member will resume his seat. Indeed, having sat down, she too will leave under 94A sequentially. The Prime Minister has... The member will resume his seat. Firstly, I will say there's been a general warning. Secondly, I will say the number of times that the standing orders are abused by members of the opposition, trying to make argumentative and debating points in the standing order about the standing order they're trying to draw is totally and utterly unacceptable. And I suggest, Mr Manager of Opposition Business, you conduct a clinic for your members so that they can see how to do it properly. Now, the Minister, on a point of order, the Manager of Opposition Business.
On a point of order, you've just ejected a member of Parliament for taking a point of order in which she precisely quoted the standing order it was referring to. How is that an abuse?
Because that wasn't the abuse she was ejected for, it was the argument that she put into the question. Now, which is totally against the way you raise a point of order. The Minister has the call. The member for McMahon on a point of order.
Madam Speaker, on the point of order. The member for Fremantle raised a point of order. You asked her to identify standing order, which she proceeded to do. At that point, you asked her to leave, exactly at the time she named the standing order that she was referring to. I'd ask you to clarify the House, for the benefit of honourable members, what her offence was when she named the standing order which she was alleging was abused.
Madam Speaker, clearly, on the points of order being taken by the opposition, clearly the Manager of Opposition Business in the House should explain to the member for Fremantle that the standing order under which she was quoting was about questions.
Not answers.
Not answers. And therefore it was totally out of order. And the fact that she had to read it indicates she was put up to it in the first place. And the opposition should stop trying to disrupt the parliament and trying to make the difficult life for the government when they actually should be asking questions and eliciting answers.
I thank the Leader of the House for a quite useful intervention. And indeed, the Manager of Opposition Business will also know that the only standing order that relates to the question and the way answers may be given is the one that relates to relevance. None of the other standing orders do. And Speaker after Speaker has pointed it out to the chamber. Now, the Minister has the call.
So many of the benefits of the China-Australia Free Trade Agreement are under threat in Victoria if Labor wins the state election this weekend.
I call the Manager of Opposition Business, or is it the member for Watson asking a question?
Madam Speaker, the Minister was quoting from a free trade agreement. I asked him to table the document that he was quoting from.
Is the matter that the Minister was quoting from confidential? Can we have some silence? The Minister.
Madam Speaker, the document or the paperwork that the notes I was quoting were not the free trade agreement. The free trade agreement documentation is currently being translated into Chinese. Then, as was the case with the ASEAN Australia-New Zealand contract that Labor was responsible for, which took 6 months before you tabled the text. 6 months.
I'm not sure whether that was a question or whether you were merely asking for tabling of documents. So it wasn't a question. In that case, I call the member for Sydney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister, sometimes described as box office poison, be visiting Victoria tomorrow? Or has Dennis Napthine told him to stay away because he's no John Howard?
I call the Leader of the House.
Madam Speaker, the question is clearly out of order. It offends Standing Order 100 and it should be ruled out of order and moved straight to the government member.
If the member for Sydney wishes to rephrase her question and make it in order, then she may do so.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Will the Prime Minister be campaigning in Victoria tomorrow?
I call the Honourable the Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I have been campaigning in Victoria 3 times. 3 times since the election was called. Madam Speaker, once to talk about our investigate and prosecute union criminality, which has been connived at by years by members opposite.
I'm not calling for your point of order.
No, it's about asking for the comment to be withdrawn. He's impugned motives on the members opposite.
No, I'm sorry. There is no individually. No. And the member for... Oh, good. The member for Lingiari.
I asked the Prime Minister to withdraw the imputation that I connive with criminals. He did. You did.
There is no point of order, and the member for Lingiari will take his seat or else leave. The choice is his. The member for Moreton will leave under 94A. I call the honourable.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. If member opposite doesn't have the guts to ask me a question, I'll answer it anyway. Now, Madam Speaker, let me say this.
The Minister for Health.
Come on.
The Minister for Health will resume his seat. The member for Isaacs on a point of order.
I would ask you to direct the minister to withdraw the disgraceful imputation that he's just made.
There was so much noise I couldn't even hear it. If the minister has, in fact, made an imputation, it would assist the House to withdraw.
Happy to withdraw, Madam Speaker. The Labor Party, when they were in government, people will remember
I call the Leader of the House.
Madam Speaker, on the point of order, it is very apparent, and the Australian public should know, that the Labor Party have run a deliberate strategy of ejection today from the House They have deliberately attempted to be thrown out, and if they intend to continue to behave like idiots, then they will deserve to be thrown out. And trying to make a political point of it is so transparent, so pathetic. You are so transparent. You have so few members left because you told them all to get thrown out, and now you want to try and make the point that the Speaker's throwing your people out because we're behaving and you aren't. Pathetic.
I thank the Leader of the House, and I would simply say to the Manager of Opposition Business that the behaviour today is an absolute disgrace. I can only, looking at the list, see that quite a few of them are indeed Victorian members who perhaps wish to go back and campaign. Others may wish to have early planes, but there was a deliberate campaign of noise and disruption, and I am fortunate in having Standing Order 94A with which to deal with it. Otherwise it means naming people and taking up the time of the House. Now, simply to stand there and try and say that you all behaved like little angels and you were picked on is pathetic. You did. That was your inference, and I simply won't bear it. The member for Sydney is reflecting on the chair and will withdraw.
I withdraw.
You're a real piece of work.
The Leader of the House will also withdraw. And the member for Isaacs will desist.
The campaign continues, Madam Speaker, from the opposition, but if it assists the House, I withdraw.
Every moment there was nothing but disrespect, and there was nothing but noise and a wall of noise, quite deliberately done. Now, the Leader of the Opposition has the call.